Welcome everybody to another session of Honest Conversations with me. To start with, I'm going to read out a little passage from one of the books that I have been reading. It's called When Things Fall Apart, Hard Advice for Difficult Times by Pema Chodron. She is a Buddhist monk and she lives in America. So here it goes. Being preoccupied with our self-image is like being deaf and blind. It's like standing in the middle of a vast field of wildflowers with a black hood over our heads. It is like coming upon a tree of singing birds while wearing earplugs. So you get the gist. And you also get the gist of what I'm going to talk about in today's video. Self-image, what do we think of ourselves? And in a way, it's a continuation of my previous video, which I made about becoming aware of the inner critic. So if you haven't listened to that video, you can go back and listen to that one, and even the one before, which was about our relationship with our physical bodies. Because this is something that I feel that we've reached a point of time in our lives where this topic of negative self-image, negative self-talk, it's enough. I feel we now need to just get out of it, because there is so much potential that's waiting for us once we cross this cloud, once we are out of this cloud of what this inner critic is telling us. So in the last video, I shared also how I have been working with my yoga practice, with my meditation practice, to become aware of what's going on in my mind. It's not to say that I'm attached or one should get attached to what's going on in the mind. It's in fact to say that become aware of what's going on. So become aware of what this inner critic jumps up, tells you something is not good about you, you're not good enough, whatever it is, X, Y, Z. Just to be aware of that. And once you're aware of that, the awareness creates a space. It creates a little bit of distance between you listening to what the inner critic is saying and you reacting to that. Very, very different things. So also usually the reaction takes us into a completely different tangent where it's an endless cycle. We hear what the inner critic is telling us. If we are not aware, in order to cope with it, we'll try to distract ourselves. We'll try to put a balm to soothe the space which is hurt by what the inner critic is saying, and it's obviously the negative. If you feel like you don't have an inner critic, I want to congratulate you. I think you're one of the few people in the world who is really free. If you don't have any opinions about yourself, or if you have just a positive opinion about yourself, that's freedom. So I want to really say that's great. Like, teach other people around you how you do it or how you've done it. But for those of us who have been somehow conditioned or trained, their minds have been conditioned or trained to feel that they're not good enough, anything about their bodies or about their personalities, about how they live their life is not good enough. We often, if we are not aware of what it is, we try to put a balm on it. We try to cover it up. Even when we go out and we meet the world, this is a voice that's constantly poking from the back and saying all these things to us. So many of us actually don't even are afraid to show up into the world and meet situations, meet life, meet other people. We don't do that. So just imagine so many of us are not reaching our potential because of this negative self-talk that goes on inside of us. It's just a voice, actually it's just a thought, and we can change it. We don't anymore need to be victims of it. We don't need to sugar it up. We don't need to put a balm on it. None of that. In fact, another very revolutionary idea that I have learned from this book is that when there is negativity coming up from within you, often we treat that as bad news, really bad. Like, why am I feeling so negative? Why do I have these thoughts about myself? We tend to over focus on small things which actually are not so big, and because we focus on those things so much, our energy goes there, they actually start to become bigger. So what I've learned, this radical thought that has been planted in my mind through this book, through Pema Chodron, is that when there is negativity coming up, it's actually really, really good news. You know, isn't that just so freeing to know that even our negativity is there to help us, is there to help us, support us in our journeys through life? The negativity shows up so that we can shed light on it. Once we shed light on it, it's not going to be there anymore. So when we become aware of the messages that come up from the inner critic, in that space of awareness, first of all, we get a little bit of distance from this stream of thoughts, or one thought or one belief that we have about ourselves. In that space, first of all, the distance already reduces the effect of the thought on us. Do any of you understand what I'm talking about? When in the meantime, did you take a moment to become aware of what's going on in your mind? And if you did that distance make you feel a little bit softer inside? Make you feel like the thought has no longer such a strong effect on your being? And if you did have any experiences like that, please share it with me, because I want this to be a conversation between the two of us. I want to know how you feel. I want to learn about your experiences, because that's how it's for me an inspiration to keep going. So coming back to, once we have the awareness of the inner critic, we have the awareness of the negative thoughts and beliefs that we hold about ourselves. Number one, it frees us. It doesn't have so much control on us as it would if we were not aware of it, if we were just going on by default. And the next thing that we can consciously do, now that we have become aware of it, we can allow it to be, we can allow it to exist, we can give it the space that it is asking for. It can almost be compared to like a grumpy teenager, this thought where it's a little bit obsessive. It is, isn't it? These thoughts are obsessive. These thoughts become these strong negative beliefs that we have about ourselves. So allow it to have some space. Don't fight it. Don't try to stop it. Don't have any opinions about it. Remember, you're just standing in the shoes of the observer. You're just standing in the shoes of a witness. And in that space, just ask yourself, ask this part of yourselves, what is it that you actually want to tell me? How can I help you? Because maybe, just maybe, this negative voice in your head also has a purpose. Just like how fear biologically has a purpose, maybe this negative voice, it's a warped way of the ego to try to protect you. So just very innocently and curiously, just ask, why are you there? How can I make you feel better? I don't want you to go away. Stay and let's work together. So instead of creating this friction, this fight, you start to make friends with your mind. You're no longer in a strange struggle with your own mind. It's not your enemy. For sure, you don't want to stay with these negative thoughts always. You don't want to have them in your head forever. In fact, they don't want to stay in your head forever. If you make friends with them and if you start to ask them, maybe not immediately, but eventually you will start to receive answers from your own being. Because what you're doing is you're quietening your mind and you're allowing your higher wisdom to come up and to give you answers that you need. Maybe you will not have any answers. Maybe you will only be frustrated the first few times you do it. But eventually, your inner wisdom will come up to guide you. And I recommend that if you don't have a meditation practice, start a meditation practice, because the meditation practice is going to support this process. It's going to support you in during the day, during life, when you're not sitting down and meditating. That time of 10-15 minutes of meditation every day, that's going to send this awareness, send this peaceful energy into the rest of your day, and it's going to help you and support you to become aware of, to find peace, to find some distance between your thoughts and the witness inside of you. And another thing that I want to talk about is self-image. Self-image, how it's related, how we relate it to the world outside. Something about what I read in this little passage. I will read the last line again. It's like coming upon a tree of singing birds while wearing earplugs. So when we are preoccupied about our self-image, how we appear to the world outside, which can be a byproduct of the negative self-beliefs that the inner critic is trying to send to us, and we are becoming a victim of that. So from that point onwards, we start to have this negative self-image, and we become so preoccupied with how the world perceives us, and also how we perceive ourselves, that we are no longer enjoying our lives. And that, I feel, is such a pity. And by the way, I'm talking about all these things from experience. I have missed out on so many beautiful moments of my life, probably because I have been too preoccupied with my self-image and how I appear to the world, and how I choose to stay with the negative self-reflection of my own self and just stay with that instead of taking a step back, the process that I just explained to you a couple of minutes ago. So we do not enjoy our lives, and I feel like that can't be happening anymore. No matter what we are doing in our lives, no matter what situation we are in, we've got to enjoy this beautiful life of ours, beautiful world. Wherever you're living, you can find beauty in it. If you don't find any beauty in yourself, another thing that is really, really helpful is to go out and find beauty in the world around you. It can be something so little as a flower which has fallen down on the street. Open your eyes, walk around, look for beauty around you. And that energy of appreciation is only going to expand. So don't miss out on the tree full of singing birds. Don't miss out on the wildflowers. Don't miss out on the rainbows. Don't miss out on looking up at the sky every single day of your life, even if you live in the basement. Don't miss out on taking a fresh breath every morning when you get up. So don't be so preoccupied with ourselves. Another really lovely line that comes to my mind right now, which I want to share with you. I don't know where I heard it. It was one of the most wonderful definitions of humility. So I think it was something like this: humility is not thinking less of yourself, but humility is thinking of yourself less. So just get out of your head. That's the other thing which is going to really help you. We often think that everything is about ourselves. Something small happens in our lives and we just get off balance, and we just focus on that one little thing that we don't like, and we just forget to enjoy the rest of our beings. So with this, I'm going to end our honest conversation for today. If there are any topics that you'd like me to talk about, or if you want to share anything about this video, something that you enjoyed, something that you want to question, something that you're curious about, I would really love for this to be a conversation. I'm going to make a video actually right away after this about PMS, how women go through PMS all across the world, and what's really the truth about PMS and whether it's normal or not. So that's going to be my next video. If you enjoyed it, please do share with me. I would love to hear from you. And it's Friday. The sun is slowly setting here in London. I'm talking to you from our home here. And I wish you a lovely Friday evening. I wish you a lovely weekend. And I hope to be more consistent in making these videos. I'm not at all consistent with using social media, but I see the power of it, and I want to reach out to so many people out there through this medium. And I'm learning. So thank you so much for listening to me. Namaste. Take care of yourselves.